forsaken and fractioned. Blood through my veins runs deep in reaction. Inside this fire blazes through the pouring rain. Ignite this time, burning skies won't be in vain. From the ash my heart will rise, from the truth my soul can hide, soul can hide. It lives in my chemistry. You ain't got a hold on me. It lives in my chemistry. Oh, oh, oh. It lives in my chemistry. I ain't gonna let this be. It lives in my chemistry. Dun, 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 dun. One energy, I'll try. A catalyst calling light when the world is past. My remedy, I'll fly. Won't let me go falling die when this life's ahead of me. I stay too long just to melt into a silent wave. Don't forget me when I'm gone. It lives in our chemistry. You ain't got a hold on me. It lives in our chemistry. Oh, oh, oh. It lives in our chemistry. We ain't gonna let this be. It lives in our chemistry. It lives in our chemistry. Oh, well. 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 forsaken and fractioned. Blood through. Check, check, check. Does this work? I think it is. It's been such a long time since I've done one of these. But hi! Great to see everyone on YouTube.
Greetings. My name is dolltr when I'm doing artist stuff, but right now I'm here in Claire mode. Thanks for popping by, everyone. If you are subscribed to my YouTube channel, you know that I do a lot of things related to electronic music education and music tech. I do my artist stuff also, and that's mainly what my YouTube channel is for, since I keep my artists and tech projects or professional stuff pretty separate. But today I'm in education mode. So it's great to see everyone. Thank you so much for popping by. And also hello to the folks who will be watching a little bit later. If you're tuning in for the first time, or if you're one of my students, welcome. This is my alternate side of stuff that you don't get to see when I'm in class with you, but I love sharing with people about these kinds of things. So what we're going to do today is a track breakdown of a piece of music that I helped to produce and then I mixed for Berklee College of Music, which is one of the places that I teach at as a professor. Over there, I focus on a lot of electronic music instruction, specifically on live electronic music performance. But for this particular instance, or this particular project, maybe just to even step back a little bit, I was involved as a faculty member in the production of a wonderful event, a wonderful concert called the Singers Showcase, which we do pretty much every fall and spring semester. This is my first time doing it virtually on the team, and the team is amazing. I was so blessed and lucky to be working alongside so many amazing other faculty members and staff members and students, like super crazy. Really, really good stuff. But hello! Greetings to the people in the chat. Hello, Pipicito. I hope that's pronounced correctly, and I apologize if that's incorrect. Hi, Tony! Tony, my friend, makes wonderful music as Win Meets West. Please check out their music. But yeah, so the Singers Showcase, back to Singers Showcase. I always like jump around a lot, but back to Singers Showcase. So this is a concert that happened virtually. It was crazy because we had to do these remote recordings, and then we had to record some people like in the Berklee Performance Center, which is the physical campus of Berklee, and we're kind of like a hybrid sort of thing. It was very stressful, but the final result was wonderful. And this particular project was 1 out of 7 songs. So we did a cover / flip of One Last Time by Ariana Grande, and it was led by one of the student producers, Baolu Chen, who's amazing. And there's a full list of credits also in the description of the video, I believe. So along with Baolu, she made like the main version of the track. Halfway through, I kind of took over, and then I also finished the track and mixed all of it. But we also had some really wonderful parts from players in the song. We had a live drummer, Shaddy, amazing. Electronics player, Mikaela, also amazing. One of my students. I'm like always so happy that I have had the chance to work with her. And so all of these people are students. Then we had Alex on guitar, who was also amazing. Seriously, we got so lucky. We had a really great cast. And Sergio on keys. And then we had 5 vocalists. We had Masa, the main vocalist. And then we had Noa, Miriam, Anthony, and Jack as background vocalists. And what's pretty cool about this is when I was prepping this live set, when I was mixing this rather, it was a little bit of an out-of-body experience because I don't actually usually mix in Ableton Live. Like a lot of my students and a lot of folks who tune into like my content think of me as like Ableton Live lady. But when I produce a lot in Ableton Live and Logic, but oftentimes when I mix stuff, I like porting that over into another DAW, and that's Pro Tools. Or sometimes I mix in Logic. Sometimes I mix in Live depending on the situation. This was one of those situations. But the great part about Live that maybe a few people don't really use that much is that you do video in it. So we had this wonderful video that was put together by the video team on this project, and you can see the full video, the full concert at the link in the description, but I'm just going to show you the video over here inside Live because I can. So here it is. Let me see if I can find a good place to put this on screen. It might be a little small, but let's see what we can do because I do want to kind of do this simultaneously. So we'll try our best, but here is the video. So we'll take a listen to it first and then we'll chat about it. So here we go.
I was a liar. have done you better, cause you don't want a liar. And I know, and I know, and I know she gives you everything, but boy, I couldn't give it to you. And I know, and I know, and I know that you got everything, but I got nothing here without you. So one last time, I need to be the one who takes you home. One more time, I promise after that I'll let you go. Baby, I don't care if you got hurt in your heart. All I really care is you wake up in my arms. One last time, I need to be the one who takes you home. I don't deserve it, I know I don't deserve it, but stay with me a minute, I swear I'll make it worth it. Can't you forgive me, at least just temporarily? I know that this is my fault, I should have been more careful. And I know, and I know, and I know she gives you everything, but boy, I couldn't give it to you. And I know, and I know, and I know that you got everything, but I got nothing here without you, baby. So one last time, I need to be the one who takes you home. One more time, I promise after that I'll let you go. Baby, I don't care if you got hurt in your heart, babe. All I really care is you wake up in my arms. One last time, I need to be the one who takes you home. No, I should have fought it, at least I'm being honest, baby. Stay with me a minute, I swear I'll make it worth it, baby. 'Cause I don't wanna be without you. Takes you home.
Yeah, so that's the whole thing. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead make stuff a little softer. Hold on, let me just go ahead and adjust some volume so that we're doing okay. Okay, cool. So we should be good. But yeah, that was the track. And amazing students, wonderful team behind the scenes too. Really, really lucky to have worked with all of these great folks. But that's the tune. So they did a really awesome job. Baolu is amazing, amazing, amazing. She did such a wonderful job on the initial production ideas. And it was tricky because for Singers Showcase, just to give a little bit more context for people, this particular version or this particular run of it, its theme was to kind of outline the college's journey over the last 7 decades. It was the 75th anniversary of Berklee this year. So every decade had a song, and One Last Time was like the 2010s song that was picked, which is wonderful. It's one of my favorite Ariana Grande songs ever. And I just love the original production. It was like really well written song, really well produced too. So our challenge then was, how do we stay true to this but also kind of put a cool spin on it, right? So they did an amazing job with the video, really great students, and we actually had a very small cast compared to other tunes. Because, for example, we didn't really have a horn section. We didn't really have a string section. So it was really 4 instrumentalist students, 1 producer student, 1 faculty producer / mix engineer, and then 5 vocalists. But probably with most of my productions as well. So the way that we started doing this was almost in a very linear type of fashion, which doesn't necessarily happen all the time. But Baolu kind of did the initial first ideation of all of the produced elements. So she did a lot of like the synth choices, a lot of the sound design, a lot of the patch selection for the people to play. And then I kind of took over halfway after that and finish up a lot of the fine tuning, added in a couple more elements, especially for the second verse, and then did a couple of things for the build up as well, that break section, and mixed it as well in live, which was a very strange experience for me. I said that already, but yeah, not sure if I enjoy mixing in Ableton Live too much. But like most tunes that I approach from like a mix engineer perspective, and this is kind of going to be both a production and a mix breakdown, but like most things that I approach from a mix perspective, I usually try to think about what is the core part of the song or the production that I want to highlight. And in this case, because the event was called Singers Showcase, so I started working from the vocals first, and then I mixed everything else around the vocals. So because of that, I think hopefully this was achieved to some degree of success, but the vocals really do kind of stand out. And to be honest, I had a very easy job because the vocals were all already very good to start off with. But I did have a totally separate vocal session where I was just editing and tuning and like syncing things up so that it sounds super, super tight. But let's take a listen to the lead vocal. Lead vocalist was Masa. Here's a bunch of tracks that we had for her. How many tracks did I have in this session altogether? Let's check, everyone. Let's check. 153 plus groups. Without the video. With the video, it's 154. But that's very normal, I feel. If you look at a couple of my other production breakdowns that I've done as well, it tends to be like 100 something also. So whoops. But it's great. I enjoy being this organized. But ooh, just saw a couple of the comments in the YouTube chat. Pipicito, this track holds big swag. Thank you. Thank you so much. We really enjoyed making it, or at least I did. I hope the rest of the cast did as well. Andrew, love the song and their audition. Didn't know you were teaching Berklee now. Yes, I am a professor there. Thank you. I teach at Berklee and I also teach at CUNY, the City University of New York. I have been for some time now, so very happy about that. Brain, my friend, dear Brian, hello. Thank you for joining in. Great to see you. Yeah, thank you so much, Pipicito. The vocals sound amazing, very clear and tight. Thank you. I don't know if I'm actually allowed to even do this, but like it would be so cool to release the vocal. I probably have to like ask Masa, or you can check out her stuff. She's amazing. Her name is in the description. But let's go ahead and just take a listen to the vocals themselves. And I think one of my favorite parts really is just the ending. It is a very beautiful section. Towards the end, I think it's over here that it happens. It's towards like the last chorus. That's very cool. Yeah, lots of like really wonderful stuff. If I had to highlight something in the lead vocal, it's probably this amazing thing that Masa does at the end. This is the vocal. It's very reverberated. And then there's this. When I first heard that, I was like, oh my god, very cool. But yeah, as you can see, I do a lot of like timing edits, right? So all of these little things over here, just like chop, 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 move all the timing, just make it super tight. But because of that, we ended up getting a really neat tight sound, like Pipicito said in the chat, especially with the background vocals. And they did such an amazing job. So Miriam sang soprano, Noa sang alto, and then Anthony and Jack did tenor. And then because of that, we ended up getting this really beautiful chorusy part at the end. Let me see if I can just play backing vocals only. I think that would be nice. One last time, I need to be it's very compressed, but it's good.
To be the one who takes you home.
Yeah, so we end up getting like this super tight, it's almost vocodery if you listen to it, just because they blend so well together, which is wonderful. We don't often get that sort of blending that's nice. And also I really went in and I think I edited the timing of everybody. If you look at all of this. Not to say that they have bad timing, but just because when you want a very tight vocal sort of sound, I do this all the time for my vocals too. But it's really just matching up syllable by syllable, being super, super detailed. And yes, this took a lot of time, but I think the efforts paid off. So yay! Especially in this last part where they do the ending, especially.
The one who takes you home.
It's like everything's matching together. The endings of everybody's phrases are like together as well, which is pretty neat. So yeah, lots of really cool vocal things. I think there was a section where we did some fake stuff, not fake stuff as in bad stuff, wonderful stuff actually. I like to do this thing a lot where sometimes if I am working with a lead vocal that only comes with the lead vocal, then we'll make the artificial harmonies, right? So here's Masa's lead vocal that we had.
I was a liar, I gave into the fire.
And I love the timbre of her voice so much.
At least I'm being honest. Feel like a failure, cause I know that I failed you. I should have done you better, cause you don't want a liar.
Yeah, so to kind of boost things up a little bit, this is also something else that I do a lot with my own productions too. I like adding an octave lower, but have it kind of like very subtle. And if you do it correctly and you do it subtly enough with enough nuance, it ends up thickening the vocal without actually sounding as if there's like some kind of demonic thing below. Let's take a listen to this.
I was a liar. I gave
So there's a lower layer of her.
I know I should have fought it. At least I'm being honest.
And it sounds kind of crazy on its own, but with the lead,
I should have done you better.
just very subtle lower end. And then there come the quote unquote fake harmonies. I mean, not quote unquote, they are fake. Because if we listen to this over here from Feel Like a Failure, I think it's here.
I'm being honest. Feel like a failure, cause I know that I failed you. I should have done you better, cause you don't want a liar.
Yeah, that's all not fake. Not real. Masa did not record that. I think initially the plan was for her to record a couple of the harmonies, but our timeline was so tight. And then when I was mixing this in post, after even the production stage, I was like, it really needs a little bit more interest, I think. Not that things are not interesting, but a lot of the time when I think about production and mixing, it's really like, how do we keep the listener's ear interested and take them on this journey? So for me, to achieve that journey thing, even within the first verse, even within that 8 bars, I was like, okay, let's add a little bit of harmony. And so here's quote unquote Masa.
Feel like a failure. I know that I failed you.
And it sounds, you can hear like, the glitchy stuff, the chops and stuff like that. But when you blend it in together, it sounds perfectly fine. We're using Complex Pro and Ableton Live as a warp mode to change the formats and stuff like that. So it ended up sounding pretty good, pretty neat. I was like, oh, that's interesting. But yeah, so we ended up getting this really nice vocal sound from her. I also did some other fake things, I think, over here too. So let's go ahead and take a listen. Let's just solo the lead vocal part. I think if we play from Feel Like a Failure. Okay, over here.
Feel like a failure, cause I know that I failed you. I should have done you better, cause you don't want a liar. And I know she gives you everything, but boy, I couldn't give it to you.
Yeah. So we had some additional and I know things at the top. Again, also very subtle, just to give that a little bit of a high-end lift without EQ, but actually just an additional layer, right? Cool. And then I kind of have this technique that I often like to use if I ever am doing a vocal doubling thing, where I have the same signal, and it doesn't have to be recorded twice, it could be the same signal, but you pan one of them hard left, which is this one over here, and then you pan one of them hard right, and you delay one of the signals by about 30 milliseconds, and you take advantage of something that's called the Haas effect to create a very wide stereo sort of image. So because of that, and hopefully people can hear this, I don't know, sometimes I wonder if stereo images translate as clearly as I think they do through streaming, but we have the same copy of the signal, but it's just panned left and right. One of them's delayed by 30 milliseconds. So you can maybe hear this in both your ears. Let's see. I can hear it in both of mine. Yeah, so we got those. Cool. And on their own, again, sound a little weird, but when they're layered with her main vocal, which has like a lot of presence and a lot of richness and a really nice tone, it all ends up working out very well, which is surprising, but also like not super surprising. And one of my favorite parts ever to speak about, just because not many people realize this is happening, but you can kind of hear a little bit of like a harmony supporting the vocal initially. So if we unsolo everything, and maybe we'll take a listen to right here, right before the chorus. Here we go. There's this really nice like vocal pedal thing that goes on, and it's interesting because sometimes when we think about harmonies and vocal arrangements, we think of them being almost like in parallel motion, but in this case, the harmonies from Noa were just like one note. Baby, I don't care if you got hurt in your heart. It's just one note. All I really care is you wake up in my arms. And then arms is another note, but it works really well, and you kind of get this very angelic sort of thing. That's something that I've used also in a couple of my tunes, where if you ever want something to maybe sound a little bit more choiry, you can play with that, and it's a difference of like oblique motion versus conjunct or disjunct motion in the melody. So that's a little bit more of, I guess, a weird choiry arranging sort of thing to think about, but yeah. So there's a lot of that too. I loved working on the vocals so much. What else can I say about the vocals? Oh yes, again more of the fake technique. So if we listened to the backing vocals in the last chorus again, maybe some folks caught this just now, but there's an instance where there's like a high thing going on at the back. We'll take a listen. Here it is. One more time, I promise after that I'll let you go. Baby, I don't care if you got in your heart. All I really care is you wake up in my arms. Yeah. And I love that actually. I love the vocalizations on the ah. I think it works so nicely. We didn't actually initially have that upper octave, so I just took Anthony and Jack's vocals, which were already very nice, and I just pitched them up. So here were the original ones. Let's see if we can listen to both of them here. Yeah, so very nice. And we just pitched them up. So let's take a listen to the octave up ones. And with the rest. Yeah, so lots of different audio manipulation things going on. And I feel like that's a really interesting thing that I've noticed not too many folks take advantage of sometimes. Like you can actually get super far with the editing if you're ever doing any kind of like last minute vocal arrangey things. That can be pretty cool to do. Of course, I am actually a very big advocate of if you can record it and if you can sing it, then you should probably sing it at the original pitch. So, but that was very high, so I'm not sure if Anthony or Jack would have been able to do it that high. But altogether, beautiful sounding, really nice vocals. Very happy with these. And yeah, I don't know how much of this I froze and flattened, but I wanted to also show a little bit of the chorus vocal initially from Masa. Let's see if we can find it if we can. I try to keep things as organized as possible, which you might be able to see from all of my naming conventions. But yeah, here's the chorus vocal. Let's take a listen.
One last time, I need to be the one who takes you home. One more time, I promise after that I'll let you go.
Cool. And this is something that I find very interesting depending on the different singers that I work with. Sometimes the singers that, there are singers out there who, when they breathe between words, their breaths are very, very loud also, which is not a bad thing because honestly, you need to have air to breathe, right? So how else are you going to do it? So Masa was a little bit of a heavier breather, but it's all good because she was using it to support her tone, right? So in the session before this, I think, in the vocal session prior to bringing all of the vocals in here, I believe what I did is I actually went in and manually cut up all of the breaths and pulled those down. And even so, after doing that and after compressing, the breaths still do sound kind of loud. But it's worth the time because I think overall when everything's layered together, you still get the breaths, you still hear her. One thing that I try to be very careful of when I'm editing vocals is not to cut the breaths out too much. Actually, because it's a little weird if, I don't know if anyone's ever noticed this, but if you can almost try to imagine this, but imagine any singer that you hear just not breathing, but being able to sing. It gets a little strange. So that's something that I kind of discovered the hard way, I believe. I think there was one tune that I did very early on. Maybe someone can find this in my discography, but there was one tune where I realized after the mix and after like all of the other stages that I couldn't actually hear myself breathe, and it just left me with a very weird sort of out-of-body experience. So from then I've been especially conscious of it. But great, so we have all of these different parts over here, vocal stuff. What other stuff? Oh yeah, we of course have the very classic sort of, overdriven, distorted EQ, telephony types of things. So let's go ahead and take a listen to that. I think it's just in the opening, but it's a nice opening touch in a way. Yeah.
One more time, I promise after that I'll let you go.
Cool. Yeah, so very mid-range focused, like around 1K, 2K boost, and overdrive in the same area. So we got a little bit of that crunchy telephony type of sound. Pretty aggressive ratio for compression. The way that I like to think about simulating certain sounds is really thinking about the characteristics of the sound, right? So when we were going for telephony effect in this case, it's like, okay, what do we usually hear when we hear a telephone? Sometimes we hear a little bit of crunchiness, so yes, there's distortion, hence the overdrive device. We also hear that there isn't a lot of low end and there also isn't a lot of high end. So because of that, high pass filter and low pass filter. And it also sometimes sounds a little bit like scary if someone yells in your ear. It's like, hey, and then it hurts a little bit, right? So that's kind of like the 2K, the 1K to 3K area. So again, a boost over there. And then you also don't really get too much of a dynamic range if you're on the phone with someone. And maybe this also kind of dates me a little bit because I'm thinking a lot about, those dial phones. But yeah, so you wouldn't hear a lot of that in that sort of telephony setting. So a lot of compression because you don't have a lot of dynamic range. And then I think the last thing I did over here, was just one more EQ just to tame things after the compression a little bit because things were getting a little bit too honky. So I just dipped it a little bit there. But yeah, you get this very nice telephony thing. Great. And I think we also did have one other section at the end where we were doing like a manual sort of stutter that I did. And this is kind of in the build-up leading up to the final drop. Yeah. And I did that manually just because I wanted specific control over the syllables. Sometimes I don't do the stutter manually. Sometimes I use either stutter edit by iZotope or beat repeat in live for these kinds of things. And I guess since I just mentioned stutter edit and iZotope, which is like a third-party company, I love iZotope products. But this entire project was mixed with stock plugins. I didn't use a single third-party plugin, but it still sounds great. So I feel like at this point, I'm not sure if I could have said this of myself like a number of years ago, but I think there comes a point where like you understand what each tool does and like you know how to do it, and you just do it. You don't need like the massaging of a third party effect. Although I love lots of good plugins. For anyone who's in the chat, if you like plugins, let me know. I'm always like into discovering what people's favorite plugins are. But yeah, just popping over into the chat as well. It's been a while since I've said hi. Ooh, Brian, hello! Yay! Very happy to see you here. Yeah, Andrew, that note is crazy. I don't actually know how she did it, but it was like so smooth when I first heard it. I don't think I even tuned it much at all. So it was just like there. I was like, man, totally blew me away. But, oh, cool. The MM program. Interesting. I think you might mean it at Berklee. Very cool. So let's see. Oh, Andre Vieira, hello from Brazil. Thank you for the kind words. Ooh, Alark, hello. Thank you so much for popping by. Alark makes really wonderful music, everyone. Please check her out. Nathan1313 US. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrongly. Very Tracy Chapman. Yeah, wow, it's been a while since I thought about Tracy Chapman, but thank you for that reminder. And yeah, Beat Repeat is a really great plugin, PPC. I'm glad that you like it as well. It's one of my favorites too. But yeah, I wanted a little bit more fine control over the specific stutter stuff, so just did the manual thing and went on with it, moved on with the rest of life. But yeah, there's some really cool stuff that happens in the build, I think, for the ad-libs. Let's see if I can jog my memory. It's been like a week or so since I've looked at, or maybe more than a week. We had this concert aired on April the 8th, so a little more than a week. And to be honest, everything's been such a blur because we've moved on from the Singers Showcase and we're currently working on the Berklee commencement concert. So it's crazy. But for people who are interested in the Berklee commencement concert, please tune in. It's so crazy, but our honorees this year. So every year at the Berklee graduation ceremony, there are a couple of people who get honorary doctorates, and the honorees this year are Donald Harrison, who's an amazing jazz saxophone legend, and then we have the Neptunes. So Chad Hugo and Pharrell Williams are both getting doctorates. Dr. Chad Hugo, Dr. Pharrell Williams, and Celine Dion. So it's crazy. I'm still a little bit delirious about it just because it's very mind-blowing for me to be working in a production with these people who I've looked up to for much of my life. I don't know if my parents are watching the stream, but they can vouch for me singing My Heart Will Go On when I was 3. So that's a little bit of that. But yeah, so we're doing songs by these people. If you want to find out which ones, please tune in. The commencement concert's going to be on May the 7th or 8th, I think. One of those dates. But if you subscribe to the Berklee YouTube channel, you can stay tuned for that. So we're working on a lot of that. So that hence the blurry stuff. But back here to the ad-libs, I think there's a bunch of panning going on here. And yes, that is correct. Let's show that panning while we listen to it. And this is really for the breakdown section where we wanted to have a little, where we did want to kind of go for a little bit of taking a break from the vocal, but still have it present. So we had it travel a little bit more than it usually would in different sections. So hopefully the left and right comes through, but, ooh. And a lot of like sidechain and echo. Long reverb tail.
I know I should have fought it, at least I'm being honest, babe. Stay with me a minute, I swear I'll make it worth it, babe.
Cool. So you can kind of like hear the panning in all of these parts. And yeah, that's I think the last interesting thing that I wanted to talk about for the vocals. Lots of interesting stuff. But yeah, had lots of fun mixing the vocals. So that was my first order of business. But since we started talking about that, let's take a look at maybe some elements that were also contributed from real people. I'm kidding. But I am serious as well. So our 4 instrumentalists did an amazing job. They added on like some really, really great parts that augmented a lot of the stuff that we were going for with the production itself. So for example, let's go ahead and start off with the drums. My God, I love the drums so much. Shaddy, who played the drums, amazing drummer, as you saw just now. And I think one of my favorite parts really is the break that happens for the drums. So let's go ahead and take a listen over here. So he was playing with kind of like a hybrid setup that most a lot of drummers use, where they have like a real kit and then they have an SPD for a lot of the sample triggers. So we had an electronic kick for this, but I did layer on a little bit of his acoustic kick as well for more of that attack. But before I go on for too much, I think this is the break drums. It's funny, I was almost gonna say like drum break. It's not really a drum break, but there are drums in the break. So here is the break with drums. Super long snare with a tuned reverb. You can hear the acoustic fills. And then we get back into the last chorus of stuff. But yeah, amazing drum stuff, right? So like, honestly, it was pretty spoiled for choice with a lot of these different wonderful fills, wonderful patterns. And we layered that drum kit, and this is my organizational part that I try to be very careful about. Yep, great. So all of the live drums were over here, all of them kind of like in red and pink. And then we augmented them, or all the parts kind of worked with each other, right? They were layered with the electronic stuff that was more of like the electronic kick. We had a couple of, I think, fills also here and there that were doing a bunch of things. So lots of really great parts coming in. I think one of my favorite things to play around with the drums is really that fill moment into the last chorus over here. You can hear this one. So, I love that part so much. But great. So that's the drums. Really, really wonderful stuff going on. And it was honestly pretty straightforward. I think one interesting thing about this particular song that we didn't want to mess with too much was the groove of it. The interesting part about this tune is that there isn't really a backbeat. So it's not like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 sort of situation. But it's really focused on the kick drum and a lot of the tom movement. So that's why even in the first chorus, you can really kind of hear just the kick drum being really in the forefront with the toms. There's no like clap, clap that you might get in more traditional EDM-y sort of situations. So we really wanted to stay true to that. Didn't really change a lot of the groove because that's what makes the song special. So we kept that as it is for the most part. And yeah, along with that, maybe this also kind of relates a little bit to the drums too. But we had a bunch of effects that tied in very nicely with them and really just helped to enhance a lot of the transitional sections. So this is something that you might notice in some of the other breakdowns that I've done, but usually whenever I talk about anything related to effects, it's really just between sections. So for example, over here in this transition between, where is this? Yes, the break, chorus and verse 2, there's a tiny break over here, right? That's where the effects are. Not so much in the middle of stuff. Otherwise, sometimes if they are and if they're regularly happening, then I might even tend to categorize them as drums because it's a regular thing and it's not necessarily an effect anymore. But we had some really great stuff, I think, in the build-up as well. I think that was some like reverberated thing that I put together from... Yeah, like a break with FX, and then just layered with a lot of like up filters and down filters. Stutters and all of these different things. Yeah. And it's interesting because on its own, it does sound very wet, which it is. But altogether in context, I think maybe oh wow, it's still going. I think because of the way that it's kind of layered in with the drums, and it all kind of glues very nicely together, even though it is fairly reverberant. But yeah, those are the effects. So moving on from the effects, I think we can move on from the effects. We got the bass stuff. We didn't have a bass player. So instead, our electronics player, my God, what are words? Our electronics player, Mikaela, she did most of the bass parts. And Mikaela's awesome. She's one of the students in one of the programs that I teach in at Berklee that's called the Electronic Digital Instrument Program, where students are able to basically enter the college and have electronics be their main instrument. So, this was something that got introduced very recently, and before I graduated, I was actually one of the folks who kind of helped to launch the program as a student a number of years ago. So now it's really wonderful. I'm so grateful every day to be able to work in the program and work with so many wonderful musicians. So Mikaela did a bunch of things. She did bass stuff. She also did later on some really beautiful things in the arpeggiated sequence things. So let's go ahead and take a listen to some of the stuff that she did. I think this one is a pretty cool bass sound that she also designed, and she found the sounds herself. So it's a very classic automated filter opening up. Yeah. And then I think we had it layered in the chorus. We had it layered with another plucky sort of bass that she also did. So, and again, it's very reverberant, but it works well. It's sometimes when we hear a sound on its own, I've noticed that a lot of people, and I used to do this a lot too, a lot of people get a little bit alarmed by the reverberant stuff. But sometimes it ends up working very well. I think it's really just a matter of how you control it and whether you understand what you're doing with it or not. There definitely is a point where you can get too much reverb, but I think if you can hear in your head what you think it should sound like and then have it sound like that, then I think that's the goal that's achieved. It's something that I'm still always constantly working to get better at, that realization of like internal sounds in the head. And imagine I feel like this will happen one day. Maybe someone can share their thoughts in the chat also, but eventually maybe we'll get to a point where we just think of a sound and it's like there's some kind of AI software that helps us realize that sound or something. But anyway, back to this. Let's listen to Mikaela's basses together. Cool. So again, I'm not super sure if this comes across through the stream, but really the pluck stuff, when it's layered with the growl, the pluck is really supporting a lot of the low end, and then the growl is taking a lot of that high end, especially after we changed the filter frequency on the auto filter and we brought it up. So I think the parts work really nicely together. And we did add like one more bass sub below, I think, just to give it a little bit more like, yeah, there we go. And it's a side chained sub, so it's like a sort of thing. But it's good. It's good. I like that kind of 30 hertz frequency ranges. So great. We have all of these bass parts. What else was there that was interesting in the bass? Well, it was actually fairly straightforward for the bass. Oh, we did have an interesting thing that Baolu did put in, which I threw in as well. Albeit a little bit subtly and a little bit with some processing. So a little bit of like almost a dubstep-y throwback. This was great. Loved it. Again, filter automation for a little bit of brightness at the end. But yeah, so lots of really cool layers, and it ends up sounding like this. Let's listen to all the basses together. Here we go. Maybe from here? Yeah. Yeah, cool. And there's some delay or reverb. And yeah, I think something that I think about a lot when I'm mixing parts, especially from the standpoint of a mix engineer, is how can they complement each other. So that's why oftentimes if I'm layering different layers of the same instrument type together, I try to be a bit careful about, okay, am I carving out this frequency or am I having too much of it in that frequency? So I try to think about which, even within this particular spectrum of sounds, what are we doing to shape or to make the frequency spread a little bit. So yeah, that's something that we think about a lot. Oh, hello! I just saw a few people pop up in the chat. Let me go ahead and say hi. Thanks for joining in, everyone. Really appreciate it. Pipicito. I'm applying to Berklee for 2022. Very excited to have a chance at going to Boston. Ooh, congratulations. Any tips on the audition for electronic digital instrument? Absolutely. Please read the instructions. Most of the folks who auditioned for us, and I'll say this too, maybe I'll audition you because I'm on the auditions and interviews team. Most of the folks who come to Berklee, who I've met so far, who have auditioned for the electronic digital instrument, don't read instructions. So they have no idea what they're actually doing. They think, some people are still mistaken that they think it's a program where they are not actually performing, but they are producing and using like things like push or things like a keyboard controller to play stuff. It is true that a lot of electronic digital instrument students are wonderful producers, but not everyone who produces can play electronic digital instruments. So it's really, really performance focused. I would highly encourage checking out, this is a little bit of my plug, but I would highly encourage checking out the concert that I'm hosting for my students at the end of the semester on May 5th. We're going to be hosting it on the Electronic Production and Design Department's Twitch channel. And that's twitch.tv/EPD_live. Let me see if I can put it in the chat. Or actually, let me direct everyone to the Facebook event if you would like to join us. So I try to host this thing. Oh, wait, let me just find it. Okay, here it is. But yeah, so at the end of the semester, I will be hosting an electronic performance concert for my students in several classes. Some of them are specifically in my live performance classes where we focus a lot on longer form performances. And some of them are my private students who, like on one-on-one students in the EDI program. So they have slightly shorter pieces, but we'll hopefully have a really fun time. And I'm also going to do a giveaway of some fun stuff, and we'll have some special guests, and we'll have like a game show thing. So hopefully it'll be really fun. But here's the link to the Berklee Electronic Performance Virtual Concert. Yeah, and it will be on Twitch, so it's open to the public as well. So yeah, definitely read the instructions, please. It'll help you a lot. And also review the videos on the Berklee YouTube channel that speak about putting together an electronic digital instrument system. One of my colleagues and esteemed Ableton certified trainer, Rishabh Rajan, he's an amazing producer, amazing performer as well. Rishabh did a whole series on how to get started with electronic digital instruments. So if you review that and if you, practice performing with electronics, not just pressing the spacebar. If you press the spacebar and if you're in the audition with me, you're out immediately. Sorry that sounds cutthroat, but actually no, I'm not sorry because we have standards. It's always good to push for higher standards and be the best version of yourself that you can be. So if you do all of those things and if you prep, I think you'll be in a pretty good shape for that. So I hope that helps a little bit. That's a wonderful question. Let's see. Oh, Bethany Liu, hello. Would the breakdown be available after the live stream? Yes, I think it will be. I think I might keep it up. Mostly I might be sharing this with my students. I'm not sure actually if I will keep it up on YouTube. I'll see if I can, hopefully. Maybe I'll cut out the parts where I'm talking. But it's great to chat with everyone. Very happy to say hello. Blah blah says hello. Greetings, thank you for joining in. That's very kind of you. I'm not sure if I'm an electronic VIP, but I know that I love electronics a lot, so I'm always very grateful to be interacting with electronics. Yeah, beep boop. But thank you for joining in. Hello also to Kush and greetings. How is Berklee different than music schools like Icon? Not a dumb question. It is. We are kind of related. So Icon is I think I forget the exact term of it. I think it's a Berklee partner school, or it's part of the Berklee International Network. It's a bin school, so we call it bin schools. But there are a couple of schools around the world. In different parts of the world, in different continents, different countries, where if you study for a couple of years, you will be able to apply to Berklee and then transfer over your credits. So it's an affiliated school. Berklee is the main institution. So the other schools are not Berklee, but they're a little bit like partners. So Berklee, so all of the bin schools, I believe, if I remember this correctly, and if someone knows better than me, feel free to correct. All of the bin schools use Berklee curriculum, but it's Berklee as the main institution. So Berklee as an institution consists of Berklee College of Music in Boston, consists of Boston Conservatory of Music at Berklee, Boston Conservatory at Berklee, because there's music and dance and musical theater and lots of really great stuff. And what else is there? There's Berklee Valencia, and then there's Berklee NYC for anyone who's in New York. Hi! There's Berklee NYC that's doing the Masters of Arts program, so lots of really fun stuff there too. And Berklee Online, of course, the online school. So lots of these, all different branches. All of these are under Berklee, and then the other schools are their own thing, but they're affiliated with the main Berklee institution. So that's how they're different. Let's see. Pipicito, thank you so much. I've been working on, oh yes, finger drumming skills and live looping. Yeah, those are kind of the and that's so nice of you, blah 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 says to say good luck. Yes, all the best to you, Pipicito. I hope you do get in. It's a wonderful program if folks get in. Yeah, and to that end, I would also say, because the program is focused in using Ableton Live for live performance, like get super familiar with live stuff. Most of the time, for a lot of the students who come to me, if they don't know live, then it ends up slowing us down a lot. But for the students who do know live, or who are very quick learners, like Mikaela, because she's awesome, she picked up live like super, super quick. And it was just like boom, boom, boom. After that, she's doing like amazing performances now. So live is definitely a very strong component of that. So if you know live, and if you know the basic techniques that are listed on the Berklee website, like the finger drumming, live looping, loop variation, live effects processing, live input, if you want to do like a vocal, or if you want to do like any other instrument, you can also do that as well. Live synth playing, good as well. So yeah, there's that. And if all goes well, I'm actually working on a video series that involves demonstrating some of these specific techniques to the program, so that some of my students can use it, but also maybe more broadly, pedagogically speaking, like at my CUNY place that I also teach at. So that's the grander plan. We'll see how things go. Unfortunately, I'm juggling like a lot of things now, but this is a quick break of stuff. So great, let's go ahead and head back over here to the guitars. All of the guitars were very wonderfully created by Alex, who is amazing guitarist. We have a bunch of different layers. Again, color-coded differently. So most of the blue stuff was stuff that we directed Alex to play, and he did an amazing job at it. There's some really interesting stuff in the break that I want to save for later, just because it's very neat. But yeah, we had a very simple guitar part for this, kind of doubling of the melody, but it adds a little bit of more reinforcement to the melody stuff. So, and they're kind of panned as well. Yeah. And yeah, really good stuff. Alex has a really nice tone on the guitar, so I pretty much didn't need to do anything, I think, other than maybe a little bit of EQ and compression, if I believe. Yeah, just like EQ and compression. I think there's, I might have reamped. Yeah, I actually did reamp slightly. But other than that, didn't do much at all to what he was doing. Not much editing. So let's close this up. There was another part that he did for us that was very nice, and it was these little plucky motif things. So if you combine it with the bass. And then we had like a solo moment with the guitar that was very cool. And then when they're layered together, they sound very nice because they kind of have like a counterpoint with each other in a way. So let's zoom in and let's grab it from here. And I did some other fake stuff with Alex's guitar as well for the harmonies. Like just a little high. And when you pitch it up an octave, it actually sounds a little bit like pizzicato for violin. So it's very cool. Yeah, good stuff. And I think, did we also do a lower octave? We did. Yeah. So lots of doubles and all of that. Good stuff. Lots of good stuff. Now, my favorite part that Alex did, which truly saved us quite a bit, actually. So we were thinking about what to do with the break. and the vision for it eventually, at first we didn't really know what to do, or when Baolu was thinking of it at first, she wasn't super sure of what to do, but she did an amazing job at like ideating, creating all of these different visions for it, and eventually we kind of went with this otherworldly thing like I mentioned just now. So Alex recorded a bunch of layers. It sounded really cool. Let's go ahead and take a listen to the guitar parts in the break. I think it starts from here. Here we go. All guitar. Cool. And then that's how we kind of get back into the chorus. But yeah, lots of these really wonderful textures. I forget which pedal he was using. It might be an H9. If Alex ever sees this, Alex, hey, let me know. But it all sounded so good. So we put it in, we panned stuff a little bit. Didn't even make many edits to it, honestly. I think like if I open up this crystal bit, yeah, I think I just did like some clip volume changes, but otherwise, lots of those really pretty textures. Very nice. Yeah, cool. So that's the guitar crystal. What is guitar black hole? Let's find out. Yeah, this one is like a very reverberant thing. Lots of slides. And emerald, I think, also sounded very cool. Yeah, so a little bit more of that low end stretched out. Cool. So lots of really great things going on over here. Yeah, guitars! Yay, Alex! And then, of course, we had this really nice build-up section where he just takes us through to the end, and then they highlighted that in the video too, so... But yeah, lots of really nice stuff over here. So last thing that I want to talk about before kind of wrapping up really, or last two things, are the chords and the leads that Sergio, our keyboardist, did a lot of, as well as Mikaela. And having these layers kind of like all come together was very crucial. There's so many parts in this. But as you can see, they're also kind of like in sections, right? So not everything's happening at the same time, but when they are, you get this really wonderful sound. So let's go ahead and solo the chords, and let's just take a listen to some of these parts. I think one section, of course, the very quintessential beginning part. Which is the chord bit. If I do want to play it at the same time as the leads, just so we can hear that top line melody that was also played by Sergio, here we go. Yeah, so the very classic, theme. It just continues on and on and on in different octaves. But it's important. We really wanted to, kind of stay true to the original. So it's important that we had some remnants of that motif throughout in many ways. And yeah, I think there was something really interesting about this tune because I think the only part in the original that it goes away in, and I might even be wrong about this, is the break that they have in the original tune, or maybe it goes on throughout. So we kind of did the same thing here. We kept it going throughout. The only part where that main theme kind of takes a break is the break. And then we go into that other world, sort of other dimension thing. But other than that, it's just going on and on and on and on. And lots of different layers with different kinds of synths. So if we play from the pre-chorus, for example... we already hear different registers of things. In the chorus, I think it's where it thickens up, so... yeah. String line. Yeah, so that's the part with the keys. And honestly, the synth stuff was very fun to do, mostly just because I think it was a really good opportunity for us to think about, okay, here are all of the different possible sounds that we could put in to create this. And of course we had to be careful. There were a number of sounds that I think Baolu ended up like tweaking a number of times, and that I also ended up changing, especially for this second verse part. We wanted to be careful with how much we were doing. So we had some basic, motifs that kept going. And we also had that pulsing chord thing that's going da 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 in 16th notes, right? So that kind of also helped to propel a lot of that forward. And that's pretty much it for the chords and the leads. Very straightforward, but very important because you get this like huge, diverse range of sounds. I think the ending was also something that I really liked, just because we kind of get this tapering away of all of the chords and the leads together. So. Yes, okay, so before I play that actually, we did have one more like alternative motif that Baolu came up with, which kind of ended up being the secondary motif, if you will, for a lot of the parts in here, and that comes in during the second chorus. It's over here. So da 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 da, that thing. Yeah, cool. So she came out with that as kind of like a counterpoint thing. We think about this a lot in music as well. But that's just like, the idea of having a conversation sometimes between two different things happening simultaneously. So there's a lot of that going on. And that is I think that's the chorus. Maybe, is there anything? Let's listen to the end again, because I love how the ending sounds with both the leads and the chords as everything sort of tapers off into oblivion of sorts. And you hear the harmonization of the two lines. And then at the end, we just had the vocals come in, so that was it. But yeah, those are the leads. We had a question from Kush. It's granulizer, right? Can you share the guitar texture effect chain? I can't. I told you just now that it was recorded by Alex, so I don't even know what it was. The only thing that I did for his parts was EQ and compress, because he did the effects and he did a fantastic job, so I just left them as it is. That's the part I think that is so wonderful, and that I feel so blessed to work with these group of people with, because if you get good material to start with, it just makes your life so much easier as a mix engineer. And there have been a number of projects other than this particular one that I worked on where it's like you get stems or you get tracks that are like off, and then you have to do a bunch of editing, and the sounds are not right, and you have to keep fine-tuning. And obviously you still do that to some extent, but it's a part of like the joy of mixing, right? And the wonderful art of it too. So in this case, I had good stuff to start off with. Alex did his processing on his own. I didn't do a thing in terms of creative stuff. I only did more of like surgical utilitarian things. So EQ, compression, that's it. And I think, what else was I going to say? Yes, I was going to say this too, but I think one of the most important things that I learned from deadmau5, if anyone likes deadmau5, let me know in the chat. But one of the most important things I learned from deadmau5 is if you have poop in, you will have poop out. And he said it in his own words, but I don't really like cursing. So if you've poop that comes into your project and you're starting with poop, you will always end up with poop as well. So don't start with poop. If that's the main lesson that you take away from this breakdown. Don't start with poop. Start with good stuff. I think he also followed up that statement and said, nowadays, granted, you can kind of, take poop and roll it in glitter and make it kind of nice, but it's still ultimately at its core poop. So do not use the poop. Use good stuff and make awesome stuff. So yes, glad that we had that. Last thing probably, and the interesting part, was really the ARP sequence section. This was done by Mikaela and also done by Baolu with a combination of stuff that was done in post as well as live. So we had this bunch of really nice things in the break that kind of interact with each other. Let's take a listen to the arpeggiator sequence in the break. Yeah, sine waves. Cool. And then leading up to the break. Cool. But yeah, that's the arpeggiator sequence. It's one of my favorite parts of this whole track, maybe next to the vocals. I just loved all of the panning that was going on. We, again, kind of in line with our vision of like, what can we do to make this seem like really weird? So I said, let's pan it. Let's make it travel around the head a little bit. One thing I wish I could have done, but wasn't able to do just because of the time crunch that we were on for this, was do a little bit of maybe ambisonic or binaural stuff with the panning. I think that would have been lovely to do. And yeah, that might have added, a little bit of a different touch with, all of the HRTF considerations and stuff. But ultimately, it was just left and right panning. I think it still worked out great. Mikaela did the arpeggiator. That's the main one that you hear, I think. So it's kind of giving you a lot of these resonant textures that are going on as the different layers come in and out. So let's take a listen. Yep. That's our arpeggiator. And I think we were just pedaling on an E flat minor chord, and then it's just like keep that held down, and then I think she had a bunch of macros on one of her controllers just mapped to everything and just doing all of this in real time. So very, very cool stuff. Great. That's the sequence bit. And of course we had these wonderful like arp keys things going on. This was one of my favorite parts too, but these little like bloopy sounds. I love that. It's a little bit video gamey to some extent, but I just loved how that added a little bit more textures for like left to right stuff. So very cool. Yeah. So we had a bunch of the arpeggiator things over here. What else is there to talk about? You know what, everyone? I think that's kind of it. But in general, I had such a fun time mixing this. So maybe I'll speak a little bit more about what happens like after I started mixing the individual groups. So that's how I kind of went about doing it as far as groups go. Generally, what I like to do after I have a group put together is then I'll generally do EQ and compression on most of the groups. In this case, I didn't do it on the drums. I don't think I needed it, but I did have an auto filter. And I also optionally put a gain on it, and that's actually how I generally prefer to control volumes between sections. I know there are a number of people who like automating the trap volume itself. I tend not to do that just because I often find myself like readjusting volumes from here. So if I know that I want to do automation, I tend to do it directly on a utility device with gain. So that's one way that you could do it. Some people work in the reverse. So they'll use gain to bump things up and down if they need to after they've done automation to the track. But I think whatever floats your boat, as long as you're able to understand why your workflow works for you. I think that's cool. So I did that for the drums, yes. I think I also did that for the effects, yes. And everything else that was not drums. So I think for the effects, bass, guitars, chords, arp, sequence, leads, vocals, yeah, and even the vocals too. I think I sidechained everything to the key track that I had. So for me, instead of sidechaining things to specific instruments, like a 4 on the floor kick drum, I tend to just like having a ghost track for the entire tune and then sidechaining to that, so that I don't have to always rely on the kick. And if there are instances where I want to make the sidechaining less intense, then I just make the key softer and for that particular section, and everything will be less intense for that. So that's actually something that we can listen to right now. I think this might be the most audible over here when listening to the pre-chorus that has the kick. And then when we get to the chorus here that has no kick and the drums drop out, we kind of get this more washed out sort of feel, and the side chaining also gets a little bit reduced. So here we go. Here's the pre-chorus.
I know she gives you everything, but boy, I couldn't give it to you. And I know that you got everything, but I got nothing here without you, baby. So one last time, I need to be the one
here we go. That was our reduced side chaining moment, and then when everything else comes in, the side chaining returns. So yeah, that's the key stuff. Back to dealing with groups. So yep, doing sidechain, compressor. Also, same thing here as well on the bass track. Another auto filter, so none of the EQ as well. Guitars, same thing. So it's like always EQ and compression on the groups after that for me, I think. Yes, and then in this case, utility as well. I think I wanted to spread out the chords a little more in the stereo field, so I just boosted up the width. Might have done the same thing for arpeggiator. No, I did not do the same thing for arpeggiator. But maybe I did do the same thing for leads. Probably didn't. But I might have had an auto filter here too. Yeah, this one does have EQ. Just because some of the leads, if we listen to it, especially when the vocals are playing simultaneously or singing simultaneously, let's try to do that. Let's solo leads, and then let's solo vocal lead, and then let's solo the vocals backing stuff. There's kind of a lot of that higher register 1K to like 4K, even pushing like 5K range. So hence the dips over here. Just so that the leads don't overpower the vocals, and the vocals, again, singers showcase, vocals need to be forward. But also the nature of this arrangement, the vocals sounded good when they were forward. So just keeping in mind that sort of frequency spectrum masking type of thing. And that was it, I think, for the lead. Yes, multi-band dynamics on the vocals. I like doing this a lot on my vocal tracks also. But I find oftentimes that, and this is especially so for a lot of the vocalists I work with who are hypersibilant, and I'm hypersibilant too. Maybe you've noticed this already from me speaking in this stream, but I have what's called a hypersibilant voice, so that means that my tongue, the tip of my tongue, when I speak, it is very close to the back of my teeth. So that's why when I say words like t or s, you can actually hear specific resonances when I say these things. And sometimes for hypersibilant people, this tends to be more intense. And for hyposibilant people, then you might actually have your tongue further back. So it'll sound a little bit different, and you won't get your S's and T's so pronounced. So sometimes I do remember this, and I remember it when I'm recording vocals, and it helps. So I kind of smooth that out. But if I'm really focusing on emotion, sometimes I forget, and then I end up having to like EQ my voice a lot, or I'll use multi-band dynamics to control the various ranges. And in this case, I think it worked fairly well. So we managed to make things bright without killing people's ears and making things painful. I think that's always the danger with a lot of sibilant stuff. It's like the s and the t sounds are just everywhere. So thankfully, that was good. And that's pretty much it, I think, everyone. I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the video again. Maybe we'll watch this one last time, all puns intended, before we close out. But yay, this was so fun to do. I'm so happy to have done it with my students again and the rest of the Berklee production team. Let's take a listen one more time, and then we'll let ourselves go. But here we go. Here is one last time from the Berklee Singers Showcase 2021 Spring.
This time I need to be the one who takes you home. One more time, I promise after that I'll let you go. I was a liar, I gave into the fire. I know I should have fought it, at least I'm being honest. Feel like a failure, cause I know that I failed you. I should have done you better, cause you don't want a liar. And I know, and I know, and I know she gives you everything, but boy, I couldn't give it to you. And I know, and I know, and I know that you got everything, but I got nothing here without you. So one last time, I need to be the one who takes you home. One more time, I promise after that I'll let you go. Baby, I don't care if you got hurt in your heart. All I really care is you wake up in my arms. One last time, I need to be the one who takes you home. I don't deserve it, no, I don't deserve it, but stay with me a minute, I swear I'll make it worth it. Can't you forgive me? At least
that's it. Great. Cool. That was the production. Yay. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in for the breakdown. That's pretty much all that I wanted to do, but hopefully I'll leave this up, and maybe if I don't chop it up and put up a different version of it, I'll figure out some way to do it. But thank you all for tuning in. I'll just take maybe a couple last questions if anyone has one last question. This is where all the puns like kind of start coming out. And my students will know I like talking about puns. But oh wait, we did have another question from Kush. While mixing, did you have any phase issues for layers like guitar? Nope, no phasing issues. Yeah, was not so much lucky, but like I said, if you start with good parts, you're not going to end up with bad sounding parts, right? So all of the stuff was recorded really well. And even for the parts that were layered directly on top of each other, because of the effects, they had different sound waves, right? Different waveforms. So they're not actually going to have any phase issues to that degree. That's a good question. The phase stuff generally I tend to be more aware of when recording things like drums, for example, especially if you have like a snare top, snare bottom, which I think we did in this case. But again, no phase issues because we had a really wonderful engineering team. Specifically, the engineer who worked with Shaddy was Rodrigo, and he's amazing. Also another student, really awesome. So yeah, lots of really great students, lots of really great folks just in general in the team. And this is kind of, I think, one of my more, I guess, general things that I've noticed a lot too. But it's like the more you do something, the more you kind of find your people. And the more you do something in a field, you find your people. And you find like your tribe, and you can, share with that tribe. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. This was really fun. Maybe I'll do something else again. If you want to see me do anything, let me know in one of my videos or in my community tab. You can comment. Hopefully gonna have some more exciting stuff later this year with like tutorials, but I've also been working on a lot of music, so I've been doing too many things. It's like, need to focus. But to that degree, also, I am currently doing a giveaway for tickets on my Instagram, which is @dolltr, as you can see that on my stream. So if you head over to @dolltr, there's currently a Q&A that I'm doing on my Instagram story for some tours that I'm doing next week. So I'm going on virtual tour, everyone. Yay! Excited. So I'm giving away tickets for those virtual tours. And even if you don't manage to win a ticket, I think the tickets average about like $7 or $8, I think. And you can purchase a ticket and you can watch me go on a virtual tour. I have 5 dates. April 2nd, I'll be touring, quote unquote, virtually. I will be doing it. It's just going to be virtual. April 22nd is going to be in Coventry in the UK. 23rd, I'll be in Calgary, which is in Canada. And on the 24th will be Ottawa in Canada too. And then on the 29th and the 30th, I'll be in the UK again in Boys and Dublin, doing this virtual tour thing. So if you follow on Instagram, you'll be able to possibly win some tickets. I'm giving away quite a few. The exact number is yet to be determined for sure. I think I might have to check with my team on the exact number, but we will be giving away some free tickets. So if you'd like to see one of my live electronic performances as dolltr instead of my current Claire professor mode, you can follow me on Instagram and you can answer the questions on my Instagram for the giveaway to be entered. But thank you again, everyone, for tuning in. This was really fun. Great to see everybody. Hope you all have a wonderful weekend, really. I know for some people, we're all kind of like in different parts of the world, so I guess it runs the gamut a little bit. But yes, thank you all for tuning in. I hope to see you again soon. Have a great weekend and have a great week. Bye.
I could choose to stand my ground. Thick or thin, black or white, day and night, we're safe and sound. Play the game, play it cool by the rules we dare not break. You could stay, but I say I'm awake, I live my way. Hey! Watch me stunning. Oh, won't be shunning. Oh, don't keep fronting. I fell behind, waiting for another chance to climb. Yeah, I walked the line, waiting for another day to fly. Take my hand this time, we're gonna make the stars align. Now you see where I lead, stars align. Done with thinking twice, I'm building me a different life. Watch me stunning. Oh, oh, ew, ew. Won't be shunning. Oh, oh, ew, ew. Don't keep running. Oh, oh, ew, ew. Coming up, we're on our way. You'll follow. You'll follow me. Take my hand this time. We're gonna make stars align. Now you see where I lead. You'll follow. I could win, I could lose, I could choose to stand my ground. Thick or thin, black or white, day and night, we're safe and sound. Play the game, play it cool by the rules we dare not break. You could stay, but I say I'm awake, I live my way. Watch me stunning. Oh, oh, ew, ew. Won't be shunning. Oh, oh, ew, ew. Don't keep fronting. Oh, oh, ew, ew. Coming up, we're on our way. 'Cause I fell behind, waiting for another chance to climb. Yeah, I walked the line, waiting for another day to fly. Take my hand this time, we're gonna make the stars align. Now you see where I lead, where I lead. You'll follow. Hey. Hey. You'll follow me. Hey. Break away, break a day, find a way, no holding back. To the stars, to the sun, gotta run, gotta keep on track.